Be too easy. Progressive. Saving hundreds is just the beginning.
The first man to investigate the torture at Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq has broken his silence to reveal his belief that the real culprits higher up remain unpunished, that he was prevented from identifying them, and that both President Bush and Secretary Rumsfeld knew about the abuses well before they said they did. In our fourth story in the countdown, retired Major General Antonio Taguba also telling the New Yorker's Cy Hirsch that his career was destroyed. He was forced to retire as punishment for his pursuit of truth. Much of Taguba's interview pivots around Rumsfeld's congressional testimony of May 7, 2004, 10 days after Hirsch first reported on the Taguba report. Rumsfeld told Congress that Taguba report did not get to the Pentagon before the leak, that he first saw the photos the day prior to his testimony. Now, however, Taguba says Rumsfeld's staff knew about the report in January. Quoting Taguba, the photographs were available to him if he wanted to see them. And his reaction to Rumsfeld's testimony, quote, "There's no way he's suffering from CRS, can't remember S. He's trying to acquit himself. There was no doubt in my mind that this stuff, the photos, was gravitating upwards. It was standard operating procedure to assume that this had to go higher. The president had to be aware of this." About the convicted military police in the case, Taguba says, quote, "Somebody was giving them guidance, but I was legally prevented from further investigation into higher authority." Let's turn now to P.J. Crowley, former Pentagon spokesman, currently senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. P.J., thanks for your time tonight.
Hello, Keith.
How serious are these allegations from General Taguba?
Well, I mean, they are very serious. I mean, they don't break a lot of new ground. I think, obviously, Secretary Rumsfeld is extraordinarily disingenuous, if not, downright misleading in saying that he didn't know what he didn't know. I think what is more shocking is the Cy Hirsch article opens with a scene where General Taguba is briefing Secretary Rumsfeld days after photos have been released, and Rumsfeld is still trying to figure out what to say about these things. I mean, these photos were strategic. We call the war on terror a battle of ideas, and when we try to figure out why we lost in Iraq, Abu Ghraib factors well into this, and why they didn't understand what they were facing and try to work to head off and blunt the impact of these photos is still a mystery.
Of course, the other key part of this thing is the idea that Taguba was stopped, was unable to investigate further. What would we look for? What should we expect to find if somebody was given the power to investigate where General Taguba was not?
Well, I mean, part of this is technical. General Taguba was his authority was convened by General Sanchez, in country. He did not have the authority to investigate the CIA. He did not have the authority to investigate Rumsfeld. I mean, there have been a number of investigations beyond General Taguba's report. Obviously, I don't think that we have yet to have the full scope and full understanding of how we got to this point. I think certainly we have to look back on some fundamental decisions made in 2001, right after 9/11. We threw out the book. We threw out the legal system, the detention system, the interrogation system, and what happened at Abu Ghraib extends and from those decisions made by Cheney, Rumsfeld, Bush.
In addition to those decisions and the policies that paved the way for torture in whatever guise you want to put it in, there also seemed to be this sickening mindset at work. Part of Hirsch's reporting included this quote: "A senior general in Iraq had pointed out to him," meaning Taguba, "that the abused detainees were only Iraqis." How much do you think that kind of sentiment actually contributed to Abu Ghraib?
Well, enormously. I think this is a reflection of our basic lack of preparedness, our underestimation of what we were facing when the insurgency happened. We were shocked by it. The edict went out, find out what this is all about, do whatever it takes. We started rounding up people willingly, probably a handful of terrorists, some insurgents, but mostly common Iraqi citizens. We absolutely violated our responsibilities under the Geneva Convention to care for an occupied population.
With all respect to how forthcoming General Taguba has just been, would we not all have benefited? Would not the Iraqis have benefited? Would not the world have benefited if the general had come forward with some of this information back in 2004 when Congress and the voters really needed it?
Probably so, Keith. However, I think you have to understand, how military bureaucracies work. They're faithful to the system, and unfortunately, in this particular case, General Takuba did his duty very well. It was a thankless job. He happened to be the guy on deck who was responsible. He was chosen because one of the people being investigated was a one-star general, General Karpinski, and obviously he was a messenger. The message he was delivering was something that the leadership of the Pentagon, which is renowned for ignoring information and intelligence that it did not agree with. They did not want to hear what General Takuba had to say, and they ultimately shot the messenger.
Yeah, and you can't have a messenger who disagrees with the official message until they're no longer in the official hierarchy. P.J. Crowley, Senior Fellow for the Center for American Progress. Great, thanks for your time as always.
Okay, Keith.
And P.J. mentioned